Welcome to zoology class. In the last class, we have discussed about some examples of bacterial diseases and viral diseases. Now, in this class, let us discuss about diseases caused by some of the diseases caused by protozoa. You know what are protozoa? Protozoa are single cellular organisms or unicellular organisms. So some of the unicellular organisms also can cause diseases in human. So one of the best example for such a case, examples for protozoan diseases is malaria. So the term is very familiar to us. It was a common disease in the near past. Now it has been controlled to a certain extent. And the disease is caused by a protozoan pathogen called Plasmodium. Is caused by a protozoan pathogen called Plasmodium. There are several species of Plasmodium. More than 200 species of Plasmodium are reported to cause malaria in different categories, different species of vertebrate. But in human being, malaria causing Plasmodium species are 4 species. There are 4 species of Plasmodium which cause malaria in human being. Let us see which are they. They are Plasmodium vivax, Plasmodium ovale, Plasmodium malariae, and Plasmodium falciparum. So these are the 4 major species of Plasmodium that cause malaria in human beings. So all these species cause malaria, but the symptoms may vary. Symptoms of malaria caused by these different species of Plasmodium may vary. Okay, and out of these 4 species of Plasmodium, Plasmodium falciparum is considered to be the most dangerous species which cause a very severe malaria, a serious form of malaria called malignant malaria. So Plasmodium falciparum causes a serious malaria called malignant malaria. Okay. Now Plasmodium needs 2 hosts for the completion of its life cycle. So it has a prolonged life cycle. Unlike other pathogens that we had seen in the last class, Plasmodium needs 2 hosts to complete its life cycle, and the life cycle is rather a lengthy one, a complicated one. The primary host is the human being. Primary host is a man, and the secondary host is female Anopheles mosquito. You know what is a host? A host is an organism in which the pathogen completes the life cycle partly or fully. So here Plasmodium requires 2 hosts. The primary host is the man, and the secondary host is the female Anopheles mosquito, and it is a vector also. What is a vector? A vector is an intermediate host which transmits the disease from one person to another person. So what is a host? A host is an organism in which the pathogen completes its life cycle partly or fully. Here, malarial parasite Plasmodium requires 2 hosts. Man is the primary host, and mosquito is the intermediate host, and it also acts as a vector. What is a vector? A vector is an organism in which the pathogen completes its life cycle partly. A part of the life cycle is completed, and the organism transmits the disease from one person to another person. Okay, such an organism is called a vector. So a vector is an organism which permits the pathogen to complete a part of its life cycle, and also one which transmits the disease from one person to another person. And here, as far as Plasmodium is concerned, female Anopheles mosquito is the vector and intermediate host too. Okay, and in Plasmodium, the life cycle has two parts. Of course, it is completed in two hosts, so the life cycle also has two parts. One part is completed in human being, and the other part is completed in the female Anopheles mosquito, that is the vector and intermediate host. Okay, now let us see the part of the life cycle that is completed in human being. So human being, a healthy human being, a healthy man gets the pathogen, gets the infectious stage of the pathogen, while a mosquito carrying the pathogen bites the healthy person for a blood meal or for blood sucking. And the infectious stage of the Plasmodium is known as the sporozoite. It is called sporozoite. So that is present in the salivary glands of the mosquito. And when the mosquito bites a healthy person for blood sucking, from the salivary glands, these sporozoites migrate to the bloodstream of the healthy man. And from the blood, these sporozoites migrate to the liver of the host, that is man. And in the liver, these sporozoites undergo a series of multiplications. They multiply, and the resultant cells are called merozoites. The cells are called merozoites. While multiplying in the liver, that may cause some amount of liver damage also, because these sporozoites enter into the liver cell hepatocytes, multiply, and by rupturing the liver cells, they come outside and enter fresh liver cells, and this will continue for some time. And the merozoites at some time of this cycle go out of the liver cell and migrate to the, enter into the bloodstream and migrate to the RBC. They enter into the RBC. And within the RBC, they continue to multiply. They multiply, and after the multiplication, by the rupture of the RBC, they are released into the bloodstream. So along with the rupture of the RBC, they release a poisonous substance, a toxin, that is called hemozoin. A poisonous substance, hemozoin, is also released. And actually, some of the symptoms are due to the release of this hemozoin, due to the effect of this hemozoin, that is a toxic substance. So this goes on. This goes on like this. RBCs are infested with these merozoites, and merozoites multiply in the RBC. After multiplication, by rupturing the RBC, by destroying the RBC, and of course the hemoglobin, they are released into the bloodstream along with the hemozoin. Okay, so that leads to the reduction in the number of RBCs, and the amount of hemoglobin also gradually gets reduced. This goes on like this. But sometimes in this cell division in the RBC, some of the cells transform into a different cell. They are called gametocytes. So they are transformed to gametocytes. And these gametocytes would present in the general bloodstream, available for the mosquitoes to suck in. When a female Anopheles mosquito bites a malarial patient, along with the blood that sucks in, the gametocytes also enter into the gut of the mosquito and they reach the crop. You know, the digestive system of insects has a part called crop. So they reach the crop. And after reaching the crop, these gametocytes are converted to gametes. A macrogamete and a microgamete corresponding to female gamete and a male gamete. And they fuse together and they fuse to form a zygote, and the zygote develops into a sporozoite. So this is the infectious stage of the plasmodium. This sporozoite is the infectious stage of the plasmodium. And these sporozoites from the crop of the mosquito migrates to the salivary gland. They wait for a healthy person. So when this mosquito, whose salivary glands are laden with these sporozoites migrate to the bloodstream of a healthy person and the cycle continues. So as I told you, these sporozoites migrate to the liver cells and multiply there, and the daughter cells produced are called merozoites, and after some time these merozoites enter into the bloodstream again and migrate to and enter into the RBC. In RBC they multiply several times. Now enter into the RBC. After multiplication, a number of daughter cells are formed, and these RBCs are ruptured and daughter cells are released. Each daughter cell would enter into a fresh RBC, where the multiplication continues, and by rupturing the RBCs, again they are released. So their number keep on increasing, and the number of RBC would keep on decreasing. And as a result of this, and also as a result of the release of the poison substance hemozoin, the patient gets the symptoms of malaria. Okay. So the life cycle has two parts: a life cycle in man, and that is called cycle of Golgi, and the life cycle in the mosquito is called the cycle of Rose. Okay. So let us see what are the symptoms of plasmodium. Let us see what are the symptoms of malaria. The most important and conspicuous symptom of malaria is intermittent fever. Intermittent fever with chills, with shivering. This is the most characteristic symptom of malaria. The fever and shivering would be intermittent. So that depends. What is the interval between two fever and chills, two spurts of chill and fever, depends upon the species of plasmodium that causes the malaria. So anyway, in all the cases of malaria, this intermittent fever associated with the shivering is the most important characteristic feature of the malaria. And apart from this, headache, vomiting, and general weakness also include the symptoms of malaria. Okay, we have already seen how is it transmitted from one person to another person. That is through the vector female Anopheles mosquito. So how can we check the transmission from one person to another person? Of course, by controlling the population of mosquitoes. So mosquitoes should be controlled. And for mosquitoes should be controlled, we should avoid or we should destroy the breeding places of mosquitoes. You know, the breeding places of mosquitoes are stagnating water. So water should not be allowed to stagnate around our house, around our houses or nearby the houses. So in the stagnating water, they deposit their eggs, and these eggs hatch into larvae. Larvae will be metamorphosed to these mosquitoes. So stagnating water should be avoided. Okay. Then protect ourselves from mosquito bites. Use mosquito nets, use mosquito repellents, etc. So mosquitoes cause many other diseases also. So anyway, it is a necessary, it is a necessity, it is a must to protect ourselves from the bite of mosquitoes by using either by using mosquito nets or different types of mosquito repellents are there, and we should take care to avoid stagnating water lodgings around the surroundings of our houses. Okay, so that's about malaria. And another disease caused by a protozoan pathogen is amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery. It is also called amoebic dysentery. Amoebiasis or amoebic dysentery. So as the name indicates, it is caused by an amoeba, a form of amoeba. There are different species of amoeba, and this amoeba that causes the amoebic dysentery or amoebiasis is called entamoeba histolytica. Entamoeba histolytica. It's a monopodial amoeba. It has only a single pseudopodium, and this amoeba, this entamoeba histolytica, infects the large intestine or colon. So in the large intestine or colon, entamoeba histolytica eats up the mucosa and submucosa. It releases an enzyme that is called histolysin. So with the help of this histolysin, the cells of the mucus and submucosa are dissolved or destroyed, digested, and they eat up this tissue. The symptoms of the disease are dysentery. Dysentery means passing of stool with plenty of water, and the stool may contain mucus and blood. So the presence of mucus and blood in the stool, in the feces, is an indication of, it can be an indication of amoebiasis. So along with this, lower abdominal pain, abdominal discomfort, such symptoms also may appear. And muscle cramps. One of such symptoms is muscle cramps. Muscle cramps also can occur. So these are the symptoms of amoebiasis. Okay. So, amoebiasis is transmitted from one person to another person through contaminated food and water. So, as we had already seen in the case of typhoid, the infectious stage of the amoeba, infectious stage of entamoeba histolytica, is passed out of the feces of the patient and get deposited in the open places when he defecates in the open places, in the soil. So when this soil leaches out along with the rainwater and reaches the drinking water sources like unprotected wells, ponds, rivers, etc., the water gets contaminated. The water gets contaminated, and when the water is used for drinking without proper boiling, the infectious stage of the entamoeba histolytica reaches a healthy person and causes the disease. This is the mode of transmission. And also houseflies play an important role in transmitting the disease. So these houseflies, as we have already seen in the case of typhoid, these houseflies visit the feces deposited in the open places, and again, when it visits the food that is kept open, the pathogens may be transmitted, pathogen may be transferred from the feces to the food. And when this food is consumed, this pathogen enters into the alimentary canal and reaches the colon and infects the colon. This is the method of transmission of entamoeba histolytica from one person to another person. Then how can we prevent the transmission? Of course, by preventing the contamination of food and water. The patient should not be allowed to openly defecate. He should not be allowed to defecate in open places. And food should be kept closed. Water should be used only after boiling. Drinking water should be used only after proper boiling so that the infectious stage of the pathogen can be destroyed. So these are the ways by which we can prevent the transmission. Okay. So we shall wind up the class here. We'll see in the next class. Bye.